All right, and welcome back. So today we are going to be going through Chapter 3, Section 3, Proving Lines Parallel. Just like last section, this is a two-part section, but we're going to do it in one video. So please have out our guided notes, and let's talk about Part 1. So by the end of this video, we should be able to state and apply postulates and theorems about parallel lines. So some of the following postulates and theorems are the converses of earlier ones. The earlier one said, if two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then these are going to be saying if something, then two lines are going to be parallel. So if two lines are cut by a transversal and corresponding angles are congruent, then the lines are parallel. Again, before it was if we have two lines that are parallel and cut by a transversal, corresponding angles are congruent. Now we're going to be doing the converse. Likewise, if two lines are cut by a transversal and alternate interior angles are congruent, then the lines are going to be parallel. If two lines are cut by a transversal and the same side interior angles are supplementary, then the lines are parallel. In a plane, two lines perpendicular to the same line are parallel, and two lines parallel to a third line are parallel to each other. So again, these are the converses of last section 3.2, learning about these parallel lines and transversals. Now we're going to be given, hey, if these lines are parallel and cut by a transversal, then we're going to be having congruent or supplementary angles. But now we're going in reverse. Now we're saying if two lines are cut by a transversal and then we have these angle relationships, we can conclude they are parallel. Before it was we're given parallel and an angle relationship is what we're able to find. Now it's going to be, hey, we have two lines, we know our angle relationship, they're going to be parallel. Let's go through an example. So example 1, we want to state which segments, if any, are going to be parallel. And we're given the diagram on the right-hand side. So as we look at it, we're going to be able to justify and say that line PS is parallel with QU since angle XPS and angle XQU are corresponding. And those measures are equal to 119 degrees. It has to take a little bit more work. We have to add those two angles together, but we're still going to be able to justify that. We're not going to be able to say that PR is parallel to QT because the measure of angle XPR is not equal to the measure of angle XQT. So we're only able to say that lines PS and QU, or line segments, I should say, PS and QU are going to be parallel because we were able to find they have the same measure. Beautiful. With this, please work on problems 1 through 17 on the guided notes and resume when you're ready to move forward and look at another example. So let's go through example number 2. We are given the diagram and we want to find the value of X that makes AE parallel to BF. And then we're going to say, hey, if AE is parallel to BF, find the value of Y that makes AC parallel to DF. So I'm just going to read A first, and then I'm going to go through B. So for A, if angle CAE is congruent to angle CBF, then we're going to be able to justify that segment AE is parallel to segment BF. So we have 5x plus 13 is equal to 6x plus 1. We can then use our algebra here and find that x is going to be 12. Now on the right-hand side, answering part B, pardon me. If angle CAE is supplementary to angle AEF, then we're going to be able to justify and say that segment AC is parallel to DF. So we know that these are going to be supplementary, so we're going to add those two angle values together and set them equal to 180. So we have 5x plus 13 plus 8y plus 3 is going to be equal to 180. Now that we know that x is 12, we can substitute it in, and we can use our algebra skills to solve, and we get that y is equal to 13. Awesome. With this in mind, please work on problems 18 through 22 on the guided notes, and resume when you're ready to move forward for part 2. Now we're going to be entering part 2 of proving lines parallel, and it's again a summary of what we have been doing prior to this. So again, just some ways to prove that two lines are parallel. We can show that a pair of corresponding angles are congruent. We can show that a pair of alternate interior angles are congruent. We can show that a pair of same-side interior angles are supplementary. We can prove that in a plane, show that both lines are perpendicular to a third line, and we can show that both lines are parallel to a third line. So we go through an example here. On the left-hand side, we are given that angle 3 is supplementary to angle 5, and we want to prove that segment BD is parallel to segment FE. So again, we're given that angle 3 is supplementary to angle 5. So what we need to show is which pair of angles are congruent or supplementary would give us segment BD is parallel to FE. So there's really two ways to go about it. You can show that, hey, if angle 4 is supplementary to angle 5, then the lines are going to be parallel. But again, since angle 3 is supplementary to angle 5, and from the diagram 3 is congruent to 4, then 4 is going to be supplementary to angle 5. You also could go about and say, hey, if angle 2 is congruent to angle 5, then the lines are going to be parallel because those are corresponding angles. We have angle 2 is supplementary to angle 3, and we know 3 is supplementary to angle 5, so therefore angle 2 is going to be congruent to angle 5. With this, please work on problems 1 and 2 on the guided notes, and flip it over and resume when you're ready to move forward. So our last example here is going to be example number 2. We are given this time that line J is parallel to line K. We can justify that by saying, hey, we have these arrowheads going in the same direction. There's one arrowhead on J, one arrowhead on K, which means that those two lines visually are telling us they are parallel. We're also given that angle 1 is congruent to angle 3. And we want to prove that line L is going to be parallel to line N. So we want to ask ourselves which pair of angles, if shown congruent or supplementary, would allow us to justify and say, hey, line L is going to be parallel to line N. So there's 4 different ways to go about it. We could eventually say if angle 2 is congruent to angle 3, then we're going to have line L is parallel to line N because 2 and 3 are corresponding angles. If angle 2 is congruent to angle 5, then we could have that line L is parallel to line N because those are alternate interior angles. If angle 1 is congruent to angle 4, then we can show that line L is parallel to line N because those are corresponding angles. And if angle 6 is supplementary to angle 5, then we can justify and say that line L is parallel to line N. With this in mind, please work on problems 3 through 5 on the guided notes. Great job today, kiddos. Keep making yourself proud. Let us know if you have any questions. I'll talk to you soon.